I opened the email during a sandstorm subject line. Let's be adults about this attached was a PDF, my divorce. 13 years of marriage dissolved in 192 kilobytes. No call, no warning, just 3 lines I've already filed. The accounts are emptied. Jeremy moved in last week. Jeremy, her new boyfriend. In our house, I was deployed in Iraq. A nurse with the 144th Combat Support Hospital embedded near Fallujah. That night, I hit reply and typed a single word. Understood. No begging, no questions, no drama. Then I folded the laptop, stepped into the shared metal shower stall, rinsed off the desert dust, and reported for my shift like nothing had changed, except everything had. The heartbreak didn't come with screaming or sobbing. It came like a scalpel, cold, clean, precise. 6 months earlier, I should have seen it. The signs weren't dramatic. They were subtle, like hairline fractures before a bone snaps. Eli, my husband, stopped asking about my day. Started staying late at his job handling mergers. New shirts, new gym routine, new passwords, new scent. I didn't recognize on our sheets. I wasn't naive. I didn't snoop, didn't cry, didn't scream. Instead, I rented a storage locker across town, placed our deed, my birth certificate, my army pension docs inside, moved my mother's engagement ring, and my grandfather's World War II medals there too. Things that mattered. I opened a second bank account in my maiden name and rerouted 10% of each paycheck. Not enough that he'd notice, but enough that I wouldn't be left starting from scratch. The night before deployment, Eli hugged me at the airport like I was a colleague going on a long business trip, not his wife heading into a combat zone. Stay safe, okay. Dry eyes, dry voice, I should have known then. But when you've built a life, a mortgage, and a decade's worth of Christmases with someone, hope can be stubborn. We met in 2009 at a veterans fundraiser in Boise. He worked finance. I was newly home from my second tour in Afghanistan. He liked that I was disciplined and not like other women, said I had grit. We married 8 months later. Eli never quite understood the Army. His dad was a real estate developer, his sister, a yoga instructor with a podcast. No one in uniform in that family tree. He used to ask, when are you going to get a real job? Didn't get that. This was my career. 15 years of deployments, field hospitals, and trauma rotations wasn't just a phase. In 2013, we bought the house. 3 beds, quiet street, big oak in the front yard. Thanks to my VA loan, it was only in my name. But I added him to the deed, because that's what love does, it shares. When my father died, massive stroke, I flew home from Kuwait, just in time to bury him. My mom passed 3 years later from a rare cancer that stole her voice before her life. They left me a small inheritance, not millions, but enough to clear Eli's student loans and help him start his own firm. And just like that, I became both nurse and silent investor, cheering from the sidelines while he rose. During our marriage, I deployed 4 times, 2 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. Each time I came back and found less of us waiting, a little less warmth, a little more silence. One night before this final deployment, I asked him directly, "Are we okay?" He kissed my forehead like a nurse would a patient. "We're just busy," he said, but I wasn't too busy to notice how he never wore his ring anymore. So when the email came in that storm, when I realized the man I once trusted with my life had handed our home and everything in it to another woman's Pinterest board dream, I didn't scream, I just got to work. Because I don't start fights, but I always finish them. I'd been deployed to Iraq twice. Every time I came home, Eli was a little colder, like I was a guest overstaying her welcome in her own house. One night after dinner, I mentioned maybe re-upping for another 4 years. He didn't even hesitate. I didn't sign up to be a military husband. He said I'm tired of being alone all the time. He wasn't wrong, but the Army was where I belonged. In the OR, under pressure and fatigues, I felt useful, respected, necessary. At home, I felt like background noise. The first cracks showed in 2019. Nothing big, just the usual decay. He started snapping when I called during guys' night, talked more and more about his friend Trevor, whose wife had left, and was now living her best life in Costa Rica. Started asking me what we even had in common anymore. I offered therapy. He waved it off. We're just in a rut. Then came the gym membership that collected more dust than sweat. New friends I never met, weekend trips with colleagues, clothes that still had tags a month later. I should have confronted him, but I've never been someone who charges in with accusations. My father taught me better. Be sure before you speak. Think before you move. So I watched. And I waited. Because something in my gut told me the walls were closing in. And in this life, especially in combat medicine, when your gut speaks, you listen. 2 weeks after that email from Eli, I was in the mess tent, spooning powdered eggs into my mouth when my phone buzzed. A notification from our bank app. Withdrawal, $88, $500, I froze. Opened the app. The joint account had $22.37 left, gone. Everything we built together over 13 years gone. Murphy, a combat nurse I'd trained with, looked up. You okay? Yeah, I lied. Just bank stuff. That night, I waited in line at the base call center, dialed the bank, and learned the truth. Eli had been siphoning money since the week I deployed, first in drips, then in floods. The biggest withdrawals started the day I left. I stood in that beige hallway for a long time watching other soldiers FaceTime their kids, their partners, their moms, all while my entire life was going up in digital smoke. That's when Halloran found me. She'd saved my life once outside a field hospital in Kandahar, when a mortar hit near our station. We trusted each other. You looked like you saw a ghost at Chow. She said, "What's going on?" I usually keep things close to the chest, but this time I let it out. My husband emptied our accounts and moved his girlfriend into our house. Sent divorce papers by email last week. She didn't say, "That's awful," or "You'll be okay." Just one question, what's your move? I don't know yet. She nodded. Let me know when you do. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Around 2 a.m., I opened my laptop and logged into our home security system. Eli must have forgotten I had remote access. I clicked through the feeds. There he was, a man I'd never seen before, middle-aged, smug, walking our golden retriever, using my coffee mug, wearing my army sweatshirt, and there was Eli laughing in the kitchen I had rebuilt with my bare hands during my last leave. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't even curse. I just focused. I opened a blank notepad on my phone and started a list. Call Janine, my army buddy turned attorney, check VA loan documents, contact command about emergency leave, review pension security, look into the refinance Eli mentioned last year. It wasn't grief anymore. It was strategy. I was planning a mission. And this time the battlefield wasn't in Iraq. It was back home. By the time the sun rose over base at 500, I wasn't heartbroken. I was operational. This wasn't about pain anymore. It was about precision. I was planning a mission. Before my shift began, I typed an email to Janine. Subject: legal help. Discreet and urgent. Her reply came within the hour. Call me secure line only. By the end of that call, I had a new purpose. I didn't need to scream or confront Eli. I just needed to wait and let his own actions set the trap. 2 months later, I touched down in the States. I didn't tell anyone, not even my sister. Checked into a motel under a different name just outside Boise, met Janine at a quiet diner in Nampa. You look like hell, she said. Feel like it too, I replied. She slid a manila folder across the table. Everything we talked about. The deed, VA loan documents, account statements. Then she pulled out one last page. This, she said, is where it gets interesting. It was a refinance application, with my signature only, not. The middle initial was wrong, the strokes were off. A forgery. Eli did this? I asked, already knowing the answer. She nodded. 3 months ago. He used the house to pull $330,000. That loan required your approval. He forged it. I stared at the number, feeling the air thicken in my chest. Then he emptied the accounts, filed for divorce, moved in his girlfriend. Janine leaned back, and he listed her as the co-applicant. Name's Lauren Kendrick. 2 DUIs fraud charge from 2019. Classy, I muttered. What are my options? She smiled. First, you decide what you want. I didn't hesitate. I want what's legally mine, and I want them to learn what consequences feel like. The next morning, I drove by our house. Her car was in the driveway. His truck was gone. I parked a few houses down and just watched, thought about marching up and knocking. But this wasn't personal anymore. It was tactical. Instead, I drove to the bank, asked to meet with the loan officer who processed the refinance, showed him my military ID, then my driver's license, then the forged documents. He turned pale. I'll have to report this immediately. I already did, I said, cool and measured. That night my phone buzzed. Text from Eli. Who have you been talking to at the bank? Lauren says someone's asking questions. I didn't respond. Next day I went to the county clerk's office, filed official notice, contesting the refinance due to fraud, registered a freeze. No changes could be made to the property without my approval. 2 days later, he called straight to voicemail. Sarah, we need to talk. The bank's freaking out. If this is about the divorce, let's be adults about it. Those same damn words from his email. Still no response from me. That afternoon, Janine called. They froze the funds, and there's more. She paused. Eli's been driving your car, right, still registered in your name. Yeah, why got pulled over this morning, suspended license. They impounded the car. I smirked. Good. She continued. They also found prescription pads in the trunk, from the dental clinic Lauren works at. They weren't blank. I went silent. She's been stealing prescriptions. Looks that way. Police are investigating. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, heart pounding. This was bigger than I thought. A part of me wanted to call him, warn him, but then I remembered that stranger in my sweatshirt, using my mug, petting my dog, in the house I rebuilt. That wasn't my home anymore. And Eli wasn't my partner, he was a target now. And I had just zeroed in. I didn't want to go back, but I knew I had to. The next morning, I met the bank's fraud investigator, nameplate read Thompson short guy. Tired eyes, coffee stain on his tie. This happens more often than you'd think, he said. Sliding documents across the desk, spouse gets deployed, the other sees an opportunity. And now I asked, sitting straight, we've frozen the funds from the fraudulent refinance, he said. But there's a problem. I braced myself. How much is gone? About half, he said. Roughly, $14,600. My throat tightened. Where did it go? He shifted in his chair. I'm not technically allowed to share that information. My name was forged. My money was stolen. My house is being used like a personal ATM. You're going to show me. After a pause, he turned the screen. A list of transfers. Repeated payments. Not to Eli. Not to Lauren. To someone named Daniel Spencer. Who's that? I asked, voice sharp. Thompson shrugged. Not my department, but your lawyer can subpoena this. The moment I walked out, I called Janine Daniel Spencer. I told her, can you run a background check? 1 hour later, she called back. Got him. Spencer's a real estate agent. Specializes in cash offers and fast closings. I didn't breathe for a second. She was planning to sell my house. Looks that way. The deposits were likely earnest money. But here's where it gets twisted. Spencer has done business with Lauren's boyfriend, Eli's new partner, before my stomach dropped. Jeremy Ryan, yep. They've closed 3 deals together over the last 2 years. I found a bench in the park, watched a couple push their baby in a stroller. Meanwhile, I was uncovering a scheme that could swallow families whole. This wasn't just about Lauren or Eli, was it? I asked. Janine spoke carefully. I dug deeper. Jeremy, Ryan has a pattern. Targets women going through divorce or whose spouses are deployed. Gets close, gets their trust, then sells their homes way under market to Spencer's clients. Ryan gets a cut, then disappears. I rubbed my face. What about Lauren? Could be a victim, could be part of it, but this isn't just betrayal anymore, it's organized. I stared at the skyline that night from my motel balcony. Was Eli part of it? Had he known all along? Was I just the next military spouse to be stripped clean and tossed aside? Then my phone buzzed. Text from him. Sarah, please call me. The bank said something about fraud. Jeremy just got arrested driving your car. I don't understand what's happening. I stared at the screen. Typed 3 words. Who is Daniel Spencer? 3 dots. Typing. Stopped. Started again. Stopped. Then I don't know what you're talking about, I replied. 14,600 multiple transfers, house listing. No answer. 10 minutes passed. Finally, it's not what you think. I powered off my phone. The next morning, Janine called. The FBI wants to meet. She said, they've been investigating Spencer and Ryan for months. You're not the first, but your case might be the one that breaks it open. For the first time since that cursed email, I felt something real, not hope, not relief, but clarity. Truth was clawing its way to the surface. At the FBI's Boise field office, I met with agents Patel and Donovan. They took my full statement, reviewed every document Janine and I had compiled. This helps establish pattern. Patel said, multiple victims, premeditation, repeated tactics. This isn't just fraud, it's conspiracy. And what about Eli? I asked. My husband, ex-husband, where does he fit in? They exchanged a glance. We're still determining that, Donovan said. Did he ever mention financial strain? Talk about needing to sell the house? I thought back. He said we were house poor. He didn't see the point in holding on to it. When did that start? About 6 months ago, right around when he must have met Lauren and Jeremy. They made more notes, asked more questions. When I left, Patel handed me her card. Don't confront anyone, not yet. Let us finish the work. I nodded, clutching the card like a weapon, because now I had names, now I had facts, now I had a mission that mattered again. This isn't just fraud, Agent Patel said. This is a pattern, a conspiracy. I nodded the word, sinking in like a steel anchor. What about Eli? I asked quietly. My husband, ex-husband. The agents exchanged a look. We're still determining his level of involvement, Donovan said cautiously. Did he ever mention needing money? Talk about selling the house? I thought back. He kept saying we were house poor, that we should downsize, but our mortgage was manageable. I didn't see the need. When did those comments start? Patel asked. 6 months ago. Around the time he met Lauren and filed for the refinance. Donovan scribbled a note. He never discussed that loan with you. No. He forged my name while I was deployed. They asked more. Took notes. Reviewed every signature, every transfer. When we were done, Patel handed me her card. We'll be in touch. And please don't confront Eli or Lauren. We need to build this case cleanly. I understand, I said. That evening I parked down the street from my old house. Jeremy's truck had returned somehow out of impound. Lauren's car was gone. My phone buzzed. Text from Eli. Can we meet tomorrow, Riverfront Park? Just talk. I showed Janine over breakfast. Don't go, she warned. Nothing good comes from facing him now. I won't, I said. But I want to know what he does when he thinks I'm distracted. We returned to the house the next morning, 9:30 a.m. At 9:45. Lauren left heading toward the park. Janine and I waited. At 10:10, a silver SUV pulled up, real estate logo on the door, Daniel Spencer. Jeremy greeted him casually in the driveway. They chatted, laughed, then disappeared inside. Do we follow? Janine asked. I shook my head. No need. I pulled out my phone and opened the security app. I installed interior and exterior cameras last year. Everything goes to the cloud. Janine blinked. You didn't mention that. Never came up. I angled the screen so she could watch. Spencer was taking photos in the living room. Jeremy pointed at features like he owned the place. I turned up the volume. We'll list by the end of the week, Spencer said. I've got a buyer already, cash as usual. How much? Jeremy asked. List at $470K, settle at $420K. Everyone's happy. What about the wife? Jeremy said, smirking. Becky says she's causing trouble. Spencer laughed. Military women are all the same. They make noise, but they've got deployments responsibilities. She'll take a settlement to make it go away. I looked at Janine. You getting this? She was already recording the feed. I forwarded the footage straight to Agent Patel. Message happening. Now. 30 minutes later, unmarked SUVs swarmed the street. FBI agents flooded the property. Spencer and Jeremy were let out in cuffs. My phone rang. Agent Patel. We've got them on tape. Wire fraud. Conspiracy, attempting to sell a property under false pretenses. We'll need a formal statement. Of course, I said, and your husband just arrived. He's distressed. I stepped out of the car and looked down the block. There was Eli standing on the lawn we once mowed together, hands clamped over his mouth as agents carried box after box of documents from inside. What happens to him? I asked. That depends, Patel said carefully, on what he knew and on what you want. I stared at Eli for a long moment. 13 years of marriage, some good, some beautiful. And then this. I just want what's right, I said quietly. The federal case moved fast. Jeremy and Spencer both took plea deals. More was coming, but for the first time, I wasn't surviving anymore. I was fighting back. Jeremy and Spencer flipped fast, each blaming the other, exposing a web of realtors, fake loan brokers, and opportunists. It wasn't just me. It was a 3-state operation, all targeting military families. People like me, away at war, trusting the home front to hold. Eli claimed he didn't know the full story, said Lauren convinced him I was hiding money, said the refinance was her idea. He just went along with it. Maybe that was true, maybe not. Either way, he agreed to a settlement, full restitution of every dollar stolen, forfeiture of all claims to the house and my military pension, a signed confession admitting to forgery. In return, I didn't press charges. I wasn't after revenge. I just wanted it done. 6 months after that email in the desert, the divorce was finalized. No fault, no drama. Just over. On the day the last document was signed, Agent Patel called Jeremy Ryan was sentenced. This morning, she said 8 years for fraud conspiracy and identity theft. Spencer got 12. I closed my eyes. Thank you, there's more, she added. We uncovered 11 other military families. They were targeted too. Your case helped break this open. They may finally get justice because of you. After we hung up, I sat on the porch of my rental. The sky was burning orange over Boise. I thought about those other wives, other husbands, deploying in good faith only to come back to an empty house and a closed account. I hadn't meant to be the one who stopped it. I just wanted what was mine, but sometimes life chooses you for the battle. That night, my phone buzzed. Text from Eli. I never meant for things to end this way. I stared at the message for a long time, then turned off the screen. There was nothing left to say. A year later, I sold the house. I couldn't breathe inside it anymore. Too many ghosts in the drywall. With the money, I bought a cabin outside Missoula, Montana. 2 bedrooms, 10 acres. A creek behind the house. No neighbors for miles. I took early retirement. 20 years in uniform was enough. I had given all I could. I got a dog, German Shepherd, named him Scout. He doesn't ask questions, just stays close. I started doing carpentry, fixing porches, building shelves for locals. Simple work, honest work. My pension covers the rest. Sometimes I still think about Eli James said he moved back to Oregon. Working at a new dental office, trying to start over. I don't hate him. Truth is, I don't feel much of anything for him anymore. He made his choices, and so did I. One evening, I got a letter, a woman in Fort Worth. Her husband was Navy deployed overseas when Jeremy and Spencer tried to pull the same scam. The FBI gave her my name. You don't know me, she wrote, but you saved our home. Thank you for fighting back when it would have been easier to just walk away. I read it twice, then pinned it to the fridge. Some days, when the silence is heavy, or the memories get too sharp, I look at that letter. And I remember something good came from all of it. Last I heard, Jeremy was still locked up, Spencer too. For once, the system worked. As for me, I'm here, quiet mornings, hammer in hand, Scout curled up on the porch building something new, something that can't be stolen, can't be faked, can't be betrayed, something that's just mine.